Not here, Mr. Bruno.
Here.
Mr. Parati. Mr. Pacto. Mr.
Here.
Randall.
Here.
I'm here.
Alright, the purpose of the public hearing is to hear comments for or against any items or items therein contained in the 2023 budget. So we'll entertain any public comments for the next little bit. And then we'll adjourn that part. If it's of good standing, we'll wait at least 3 or 4 minutes to see if we got anybody that shows up late.
Are you doing public comment now?
Mm-hmm.
I got a few things I'd like to bring up. First of all, I got introduced to a new friend up on Richardson Avenue. You know, you guys have been talking about the pay for code enforcement officers. I don't really think there's been anybody here that hasn't been up on Richardson Avenue since this water district stuff started. And I was amazed as to what I saw up there. I've made some copies for everybody, except for you, Mike.
This isn't anything to
So
do
what's going on up there?
This isn't to do anything to do with the budget.
That road is genuinely a junkyard up there.
Alright, we'll take those, but, that will have to be discussed at either a work session or we can discuss it on the 15th.
Want to see them too, Vern?
Yes,
Because
please.
we're doing the
Thank you.
That's all
budget.
the copies I have, you'll have to share
So
them.
if you have something with the budget, and yes, I'll address that at another later. I can't do it during this time because it's just a public hearing on the budget or against comments on it.
The first thing I'd like to talk about is that building you want to put up on the, for the winter time up on River Street Park.
Okay.
You know, I hate to say it, but that's right in a floodplain.
Yep.
So a permanent structure to me there is not a good thing. You ever think about maybe for $8,000-10,000 a 12 by 20 building, like those Amish pre-made buildings and stuff? Now, when I say you put them on a set of skids, you know what I'm talking about? Set of skids?
They're like runners.
So, yeah, so if it does flood up there, you could actually send Mike up with a front end loader or something and skid that out of the floodplain and save the building. You know, and it'd be a lot less money than 100,000. And what kind of repairs you're gonna put into that? I know it hasn't flooded in years, but it's gonna happen again. It's inevitable.
So to address that, I mean, nothing's been solidified on what type of building or what we are going to be able to build
Yeah.
there.
I understand that, but I
did
know you
talk
put it
to-
into the budget, and this is just something that I'm not really too good with. I don't think it's a good thing to build a permanent structure in a flood zone.
Yeah, well, they haven't decided a
Right.
permanent structure. As a permanent structure, it may be a bathroom or a set of bathrooms with the tanks underneath. They're much like the porta potties, only they're a full structure with a change in there. But those are things that I'm working with the county planning
Yeah.
with. And according to the LiDAR, there are 3 places down there that we would be above what the flood stage area is down there.
Mhm.
So, and we also looked at permanent bathrooms up here as part of that. And with that, if we do a permanent septic at either one, we have to have enough money to complete the project, so.
Another thing I wanna bring up is the garage. Have you ever approached anybody like overhead doors or something and see if you get a thicker seal or if they have any way of, you know, adapting the doors to close those gaps up until the actual permanent repairs can be done instead of sinking $36,000 into temporary repairs? You know, does overhead door have some way of closing up
Well,
the gaps?
In the budget, we put in money for the actual full repairs with the drain replacement and the whole thing. That contract came in astronomically at
Yeah.
$203,000, so that is why we didn't award it, because we had nothing to compare it by. Speaking with several of the contractors as of late, they think that should be able to be done around $90,000 to $100,000, so they thought it was wise not to award that bid, but, again, you gotta remember we're paying prevailing wages and we can't do anything about that. And once those go out to sealed bid, we have no say on what they're gonna be until we get them, other than whether to award them. We always have the right to refuse any and all bidding.
But it just seems like put $36,000 into it and maybe next year tear it all back out and do the whole floor and do a permanent fix to it.
Yeah,
It just seems like a lot of money to put into it.
Right, and what you're talking about is something that, maybe on the, I guess we'll talk about on the agenda when we get to the, regular part of that meeting, but, would be a temporary fix, and there was a couple estimates that were received to do it. Could be a temporary or a permanent fix, depending on if they can tie it into the rest of the project when that bid goes out.
Well, yeah, I
And
would agree
we'll,
something like
we'll
that,
discuss those numbers.
if they guarantee you
One's a
they
little
can tie
higher
it
than
in.
that, and one's quite a bit lower than the number you threw out there, but I'll wait and with the councilman.
Well, that's
look
what
at
was
those
discussed
and
here, yeah, that's all I hear, which right here.
Mhm.
And the only other thing I got is that splash pond out here.
Mhm.
When that project was first started, it was gonna be at no cost to taxpayers. And now it's dragged on so long that you're gonna put almost $50,000 tax money into that. You know, are you gonna get enough use out of that to justify that kind of money?
The city just put one in last year and it went over really big. Most of the
Well,
areas
the
that
city
have
has
them,
a lot more population and stuff too, for kids to go to these places, more access to it.
let me know when you're done and then I'll answer the question, otherwise you're gonna cut me
Well,
off
when you're
again.
gonna compare them, you gotta compare all the facts, you know, they have the access, they have, the kids to play there and stuff like that, and. Yeah, go ahead. I just don't like putting another $48,000. We went from what, 90 something now to almost 150?
No, the original project grant was for $125,000. That was secured with Rick Potiker a few years with some of this board that is here. It kinda sat there, that isn't my fault, or any of the constituents' fault, that it sat there for a period of time. I've been working on it for, well, about 2 years now to get the money back solid. And I just got, some good news the other day that looks like they're gonna do final approval within next week. Do I think it'll be used? Yeah. We've proved that any of the amenities that we've added to the parks have been a good use. Most of the preliminary engineering was done. I stopped until we knew we were, I stopped spending any more money on it until I knew we were still gonna get the $125,000. But there were certain things that needed to be done, like site plots and, costs, projected costs, so to get the project to this part that needed to be done for the DASNY grant for the application. So I believe it's gonna go through. I believe that it will be used, and there's still just a hair under 5,000 people in this town, so, I think it's a big asset for them. It's over, almost 2/3 funded. So, I appreciate your concern and whether it'll be used or not, but
My only concern is it's gone from being fully covered. Over the years now, it's up to taxpayers donating almost $50,000 for it.
well, the
That's a lot of
taxpayers,
money.
the taxpayers, it is all taxpayers' money. But it will come out of the ARPA funds, which was part of the American Rescue Fund Act. So it won't cost the local tax dollar, or payer, a dollar, or even a penny. It is money that was funded for projects such as this. We have another 200 and something thousand that we gotta utilize this year. And if we don't have it allocated into projects, then you're just gonna throw it away. Because it has to be allocated within the first 2 years, and then you have 4 years to spend the money and actually get the project done. So what we need to look at is things that are reasonable that we can accomplish within the next 2 years. I'll tell you on the projects that I've worked here since the last 3 years almost that I've been down here, it takes almost a year and a half to 2 years to bring a project up to fruition where it is ready to put a shovel in the ground. So those are some of the decisions that were made into using that. And I don't wanna speak for the whole board. You guys,
Well, this is
have
the
allowed me
first
to
I've
do it.
heard that it's coming out of the ARPA funds and not taxpayers' funds.
Yeah, no, it was slated as an ARPA project right from
Right.
the beginning.
And like I say, my only other concern is not really a budget thing, it's that Rickson Avenue, I was up there talking to a guy the other day, and, there's days you can't even get an ambulance, a fire truck through there. They're parked right up to the road, a lot of unlicensed vehicles up there and stuff like that. And why it hasn't been handled before that, because like I say, I believe everybody just about here has been up on Rickson Avenue, you've had to see it.
I've been up there twice myself to talk to a couple of landowners about cleaning that up. And if we're gonna move forward with another project that we're working on up there, that we'll have to see that done, or that the project won't move forward. But again, that really isn't a budget.
Right,
hearing
that's why I
issue.
say it's not really a budget item, but it's horrible up there.
Yeah, no,
I mean, this ground's already polluted, and you got probably 40, 50 old junk cars up there leaking who knows what into the
Right.
ground.
no,
Can I make a quick, Mr. Bruno, is here, but he does have a prior commitment.
yeah, I was just gonna say
So
that.
if we can get through this, he.
That's all I got, Josh, sure.
Yeah,
That's
no,
it.
I understand it, but I kinda told Vern that,
Yep,
you know, we'd get him out of here, whether we had to vote or not, but
yep, no, that's it for me, I'm done.
Can we keep these? Can I keep these?
Yes,
pictures?
they're for
Thank
you.
you.
So, anybody else? Alright, we'll conclude our public comments, and, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?
Alright.
Yes. Okay, this now relates back to your other project. Well, we're gonna do a roll call on this one. I'll forget the pledge, cause we already did the pledge.
Okay, Mr. Parati,
Yes, we
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Facto,
Sure.
Mr. Randall.
Sure. Okay, this is in, discussion of resolution 2291. This does pertain to exactly what Mr. Dolan was speaking about, a temporary fix to the garage floor. And in the essence of trying to get this done before it's untenable weather-wise, we decided to add it to the agenda tonight. What you have in the bag, I was able to secure two. I'm gonna make sure I'm on the right one. I didn't realize I had two here.
Yeah, the ones about the budget, first one.
Nope, I better get through that one first. I guess I better do them in order. Alright, I apologize. I'm gonna back step on that one and go to resolution 2291, which is the first resolution of the board that presents tonight. This resolution is on, budget. Motion by whereas the town board has received and made changes to the tentative budget for the year 2023. And whereas the preliminary budget for the year 2023 was presented for review during a public hearing on November 10th, 2022, where the board heard comments for or against any item therefore and therein contained, whereas the board believes that it is presented a preliminary budget for the 2023 that will meet the needs of the town of Schuyler Falls. It is therefore resolved that the town board of the town of Schuyler Falls adopts the preliminary budget for 2023 without changes to the annual budget for 2023. So do I get a motion
Motion.
by Mr. Parati, second
Floyd, second.
by Mr. Bruno. Alright, any comment?
Yes.
Yep.
I do. We
Can I
had,
steal that pen for a minute? I'm sorry. Your pen for a minute. Can you
oh,
steal it for a second?
there you go.
Thanks.
We,
You can go ahead. I'm
okay, we had 3 or 4 work sessions on this budget. And what troubles me about the budget is that at the very end of the last work session, I was presented with a document, all of a sudden, capital improvement projects. I had no knowledge of this at all, none whatsoever. And some of these projects I'm clearly opposed to. And the way it was done, it was never discussed. It was never discussed, and it was more or less a wish list at the end of the work session. And that isn't really the proper way of preparing a budget, in my opinion. I'm speaking for myself only, obviously. Now, to your point of the River Street project, of the River Street allocation of $100,000, that's one as well, that certainly should be toned down. That project, $100,000 to put a little building up down there, to put a state-of-the-art septic system in, because it isn't a wetland. You're right. It isn't a wetland. It's on a wetland map down there. And it's not as simple of a procedure as being portrayed here. Now, what was it, Kevin, here recently? Some people had planted a garden or something down there. And DEC, I believe, made them remove the flower pots or whatever it was. Do you recall that?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got some of it, but that's not even close.
Well, no, but that's part of a wetland restriction right there.
Yeah, there was nothing to do with DEC. It was the county that does a check of that area for the state every 2 years. They go down there.
What
and look at it.
department of the county?
It's the Clinton County Planning Department that does that, and county planning. And they seen that there was some raised garden beds. It does say no man-made structures. So that's being addressed as soon as they can figure out where the lines are. But that's another issue that don't have to be discussed here, because that is a property owner down there. As far as what you're talking about, as far as the bathrooms, we're looking at bathrooms here and down there. The park in River Street gets used 4 seasons out of the year. That means the temporary bathrooms are there all the time. There are different avenues that we can take. There is nothing that's been finalized on what the projects, those type of projects will be, or what they
Right, Kevin,
can
I
be.
understand.
So it's just to allow the board to move forward to figure out what would be the best scenario, either up here at this town park or down there. There are needs for a changing area down there, because we use that also for ice skating on the futsal court, and they also use the trails in the winter for cross-country skiing and snowshoeing. So to have a changing area that was heated would be also an advantage also down there. But again, there are no plans to put in state-of-the-art anything right now. And talking with Mr. Cutter from the planning department at Clinton County, they have introduced a bill that would allow for the use of some of the FEMA bought back lands by town, so that they can utilize some of those lands rather than the town just paying taxes to the state and the county on them, so that the constituents get something back out of it rather than just paying tax on it. So there were a couple places on the LIDAR down there that were high enough that they weren't in the 1A flood zone. So we thought there was a potential that we could put one down there. Up here, I don't see any issues with putting bathrooms, outside bathrooms here. And I think anybody that works down here at the town will know that they come in quite often to use the bathrooms here. If they're brave enough, I should say, to ask to come in and use our bathrooms. So there's other, with the splash pad going out there, if that goes through, there's gonna be a need for bathrooms out there, a further need for it. Go ahead, I don't,
I'm sorry, Kevin, but I promised
Oh, yeah,
Vern we'd
he's
get him
all
out of
set.
here. And all this stuff on the budget, if you pass or don't pass the budget, it's fine. But it would be, Vern has
Really
really
needs
gotta make a commitment here.
right,
If we could do the budget, and then you guys don't have to spend the money.
Mm-hmm.
You're just putting it there so that if you wanna spend it, so if you guys could, you
If-
know, come up with a budget,
And I don't wanna cut any of the councilmen off or you as the deputy supervisor from any comments on any of this
I
stuff.
certainly think I should be able to say something during discussion
Right.
prior to
So-
a vote on this budget.
What we could do, and if there's prior concern, you know, and there's still concern after, as one needs to leave, but as Sherman stated, doesn't mean we have to spend the money. But at least it's there in case we all agree on what those projects are gonna be, in multiple
and Rich, I don't mean to
areas.
cut you off.
Right, no, I
But-
understand.
But like I said, we could just vote on this, we could vote it down right now. And it's my understanding that it was a full majority vote on the tentative contract, so even if we vote it down and we don't have time to rework another one out, that's gonna hold as a
But I mean, in
full
terms of
budget.
all the respect for you, you know, with your time frame here tonight, I don't mean to impede on that.
No.
However, we have a meeting on Tuesday night coming up. So why couldn't we simply vote on this budget then? We
Are
can
you
vote.
gonna, let me ask you a question,
Sure.
are you gonna change the budget? Because really you voted on the preliminary budget, so it's the public that has comments to change the budget. If the budget's gonna
Right.
be changed, it's a different
Okay.
story. But if the
Okay.
budget's not gonna be changed,
Okay, but my point is this, is I have several items in this budget that I wanna comment on. And we could simply have a vote on this budget next week. We have until the 20th of November to do it. And we
it's a
could do.
Sunday.
Let me tell you something right now, okay? We're under a timetable where we have to get this budget down, okay? We got till the 20th, period, all right? And we would have to
Yeah.
re-advertise another meeting, which we wouldn't have enough time to do.
Right.
And I don't think it's feasible to do that.
But we have a
But-
meeting on the 15th.
But again, okay, if you had concerns, I wish that it would have been brought up back then when we were working on the budget, not now. As
My-
far as,
my
as
point-
far as that,
excuse-
but wait a minute.
Excuse me, my point of
You gotta
this,
go, you gotta go.
my point is very clear to you on this. This document was handed to me
Yeah,
at the end of the work session, the last work session we
it
had.
was the second to the last, cause we met again after
Well,
that
this
on
right
another
here-
issue.
I have opinions on it.
We had a third one for a
And
particular
I
reason,
just-
you didn't even mention them.
Well,
But I will tell you this, I've been asking you guys, all of you, not only
Got a
you,
motion.
but everybody here, to come up with some capital improvement projects for the town. The monies are getting high enough where we need to start using some of them for capital improvements. We also have to spend the ARPA money, which is way off the subject of this budget. But I got nothing, okay? So I put together what I thought we had discussed and what was needed for the town. You don't have to spend the money at the end, it
But-
takes three people on this board to do it.
speaking of ARPA
Kevin, you
money,
have a motion
for a minute,
second on the floor.
speaking of
Yeah.
ARPA money, we've given some raises out to two officials, some high raises. Now, in terms of taxpayers' funding, we could always use ARPA funding to support these two raises for these two positions here. Instead of taking the money out of the taxpayers, we could do it for the year 23 and 24. So
Yeah.
we could take that increased performance pay that they're getting because they're short-staffed, both of them. Certainly the highway, he's a working highway superintendent. So we could adjust this budget around to take those monies out of the ARPA funding.
You gotta be careful doing that, I think, Reg, because we just cut, or asked to cut somebody. And that just gives him a chance to say, also, we can do that for myself.
I don't wanna make this drag on any longer than I got it for you, okay? We got some fundamental differences, you and I, on a few things.
No,
ARPA
no, we
money,
don't.
yeah, we do.
We don't at all.
Yeah, we do, because ARPA money should be used
There's no
better,
work session scheduled.
in the betterment of the town.
Okay,
To
now
help-
that,
To
okay,
help the town.
now that
You
you
will
opened the
use,
door
if
for
you use
me
it.
and brought up ARPA funding, okay?
No,
Good, I'm
you
glad
brought
did
it, no, you brought it up.
I'm glad you did it.
No, I didn't bring it up, I'm gonna explain to you that my feelings of it, because you brought it up, okay?
Hang on,
As a
hang on,
salary.
guys. Can I
And I
just say
said
something?
that I think it should be used for betterment of the town, not just to be used for a salary where it's used 1 year
But yeah,
and it goes away. And I'm not even sure that we can utilize it for a
Yes, you can.
salary.
But Kevin, on the other hand, you're saying it, and I'll close on the ARPA. But you're turning around right now, and you've done it already with ARPA, and you've spent money on Rixon Avenue, which is totally inappropriate, and it's gonna be a real problem, because you're servicing private property over there, and I'm not backing off on that, because that's an improper use of ARPA.
It's got nothing to do with
Guys,
the budget.
seriously, you have a motion and a second on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
You really need to vote on it.
You ready?
If there's no more discussion is part of a resolution. I can't not allow discussion.
The only problem is I just checked with the calendar, you had no work sessions to work on a budget. And we
Yeah,
had
I
no
just-
time to advertise.
I covered that.
Okay, I'll continue and I promise I'll be brief, okay? I'll bring up just a couple of other items that I'm not comfortable with. And quickly is this. The $10,000 for hiring parade events and what have you and musical events. I asked the board if we could have at least one of the 4 music activities, music in the park, at the Salmon River Park. I asked for that. No one wanted to really go along with that. So other than that,
Isn't that discussion down
Yeah,
the road?
Red, I agree with you.
He's
Red,
gonna
but
sit
not-
here and grandstand and then let him do it. It's
No,
fine.
No, listen,
Kevin, I'm
listen,
not
guys,
grandstanding. I
guys.
have the right as a town board
Yep,
member.
No,
you
you
do,
to
go
address
ahead
this
and sit
board.
there
Please,
and
please, guys.
grandstand.
I told Vern that we wouldn't make him
Yeah,
wait for
time
his
frame.
next
I
appointment.
understand. Go ahead.
So if you could put it up to vote, and you're 100% right, Reg, we can talk about this afterwards. I'm sure everybody will talk about it.
Mr. Parati,
Yeah.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Facto,
No,
Mr. Randall.
Yes.
Okay.
There are, with an explanation, there are things in this budget that I do not like, okay? Everything that we do in this body here is a set of compromises. There are some things that took place that I am not happy with, including some salary changes. But in the essence of this town having a budget to work off of, and in the good interest that the people of this town have put in our hands to provide those services for them, that is the reason that I am going to approve this budget with my vote as a yes.
That's your opinion, we all have our opinions.
I agree.
Kevin, can we go to the next resolution?
Yep. It's,
Sorry, Mike.
Resolution 2292. Motion be the highway garage floor is indeed of need of repairs, whereas it is stated in the procurement policy, quotes were solicited 60 days ago and to date. Only 2 have been received. Luer Construction, 18,000, and Luck Builders for 43,337, which you'll see in your packets. Now be it therefore resolved that the town board of the town of Scholar Falls authorizes the hiring of Luer Construction, which is the lower of the 2, to do the repair work on the highway garage floor for a quoted price of 18,000. This would have to start with a motion. Somebody wants to
Motion.
motion? Can I steal that again? spreadsheet. By Mr. Perrot.
I'll get another one here.
Yeah, I know, I don't, mine was attached to the thing, I don't know where it went.
I didn't take it.
I think you did.
I didn't take it.
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
We have a second? Mr. Bruno,
Discussion, and I'll be fast.
can I just do the, what's there first?
Oh,
The,
go ahead.
the two quotes were received, are attached to the resolution.
Isn't that 36,000, not 18? It's two parts.
The floor is 18,000. The second part, I didn't put as part of this resolution because that was the
Oh.
grading into the parking lot and all that in the back, and I did not get any quotes on, other than the one
Oh,
on
it's
that
good,
one.
that's why I was asking.
Yeah, I apologize
That's all right.
if you wanted it all there. I thought we were just trying to get the area in front of the doors fixed for him.
He had told me also, and Mike too, that this was not a temporary, this was a permanent fix, right?
Yeah.
I guess depending on what goes forward afterwards.
I agree with you, Mike. This could be a permanent fix or it could be a temporary fix. It depends on what happens when we dig the rest of the whole project out.
Right.
And whether they wanna tie into that floor or they don't wanna tie into that floor.
So Lux, would that include just the front? That bid is just for the front?
Yes, that was just on, compare the quote of the aprons in the front and where the floor is crushed and needs to be cut out and repaired.
So it's.
And you'll
apples to
see that
apples.
in their estimates, one's a little bit more detailed. Definitely say Lux is a lot more detailed. As to the work, they're all performing though pretty much the same work.
Thanks, Vern.
Thank you, sir.
Can I just, Mike, you've seen the bids, is it what you want? Is LeWare gonna do what you want him to do?
I'm sure he will. I'm sure it'll be more than sufficient. He said it would be pretty much a permanent.
Okay.
Okay, discussion on this one. I'm trying not to complicate this, but the second $18,000 bid, Mike, for the rear of the garage, is that something that's gonna be forthcoming soon, or?
It will need to be addressed because they have water issues.
Oh, sure, I'm aware of that, Kevin.
So, yeah.
But is it something that's gonna be addressed within a few weeks, or?
I would hold, I'm only one on the board.
Sure.
I would hold off on that until spring if it was myself.
Okay.
Just because we're so late in the year. But it should go along with whatever work we complete, when we do the complete project. That should be addressed.
Okay, cause I was
That's what I
confused
would think,
with the way it was in there, I didn't.
No, I
I
just
know.
wanted, both those quotes were in there under aware, so I left them both.
We're running out of time.
But I understand the time, Mike. But I'm wondering, does it have to be put out for bid in the paper one day?
No.
It doesn't. Why? Because of the money
amount.
amount?
Because of the money amount.
What is it, 20,000?
I think it's
Kevin, or-
I think it's 1,000, don't quote me on this, but it's like $1,999, I think, to $34,999, something like that, that
Okay.
we're looking at. Once you go over that 30-something thousand, then it would require even a resolution. It would, this requires at least,
It's up to
Good try.
$34,999.
that's what I
Okay.
said,
Up- yeah, well, up to,
34,999.
wait,
And the only other thing, the other question, Kevin, I have on it is, on both bids, it didn't show scale pay for the employees.
It did on
It did.
that,
On
that
this
one,
one?
it didn't.
It didn't. So
That one did.
what are you gonna have to just ask him or mention it?
Well,
or
he
is
knew
it-
he was bidding it for a town,
Is he
and-
familiar with that? He must be,
and he
I can't
didn't
speak for him,
include
but
any
yes.
any
Okay.
tax in the bid.
Okay,
So that is something that we will have to make sure that we discuss with
Okay,
him to make sure
okay.
he's paying for prevailing wages. That, there's no ands if or buts about that. We have to pay.
Okay.
He does, which means we will have to pay the contract
Okay.
with that.
And
So
the time frame is good, he can do it right away.
That's what he said
Oh,
last time,
okay.
Joe.
That's it?
This-
Nothing else?
This other thing though, for 43, would we be able, that's over that 34,000, we wouldn't even be able to award that without going out, would we?
No,
No. No, that would have to go out to sealed bid.
Could you explain scale pay?
It's union scale wages. So basically, a municipality is bound to follow whatever the state has set for union scale wages. Does that explain it?
Yeah, do you know what that amount is?
Who's in the position?
It depends on what the project is or what the job is. A laborer or a machinery operator, a coal fire operator, I mean, you can go right down to electrician or a janitor, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're all on there, they're on the comptroller's website, I got them in my office if you want a copy of them. But they're very ambiguous, and when I talked to the state comptroller's office, when they popped in here this year, midsummer, with their badges on, you know, it was, cause they said, your website sucks. And I said, your information sucks. I said, it's just what I said, it's very ambiguous, it doesn't, describe well certain jobs that we were trying to hire or need to hire. And he laughed, and the other guy kinda goes, well, you've been on our website, he goes, I guess we don't have too much to discuss, I actually showed it to him. And I had no idea that they were coming, cause it was what they call a courtesy visit, to see if we needed any help with anything, but they were checking just to make sure we were doing things right.
Actually, the websites.
But as it turned out, they kinda laughed and smiled and said, have a good day. But, yeah, and they understood it. I said, you really need to update your website and get the job descriptions, you know, more specific. They're just really ambiguous. You could try to, like, HVAC. The reason I was looking it up at the time is we were doing a heating system for the rec shack up there. I should say the rec shack, the rec building. And I was trying to figure out what prevailing wages should be. And I asked both of them here that day, and they're like, well, that's kind of like a, you know, it doesn't really qualify. You can look in there. It's got HVAC, and it says something about, you know, I think, don't quote me now, say it was an hourly wage of like $20-something an hour, or $26 an hour, up to, you know, because it's a slide scale, up to maybe $56 an hour.
And that's what the contractor's required to pay his men?
He's required to pay prevailing wages, and most all of it is determined by the unions. The unions negotiate those scale wages on state projects or county or municipal projects. And the cost goes up because they call it prevailing wages. That's what it is.
Kevin, are we ready to vote on it now, tonight, or?
Yeah, I mean, we got a resolution here if you wanna,
Okay.
I mean,
No,
Rick
okay,
was
no
trying to get
problem.
it.
So should we add to the resolution something regarding prevailing wage? Would that be just an idea to cover us on this? And to cover him, really.
What I had,
Cover him as well.
we don't have to have it in here.
Okay,
Okay, and that's another thing that I checked into on that one particular project.
all right,
And basically, what I had to do was the company that did the work had to write that they did pay prevailing wages on the job.
Okay.
It's on the town, but it's mostly on the employee, the contractor.
all right.
That they're obligated to do that, but the town is obligated to make sure that they are doing it. But if somebody's gonna really get in trouble for not paying prevailing wages, it's not really gonna be so much us as though we're oversight of it. It's gonna be the contractor,
Okay,
okay? That's the way I understand.
okay, thank you, Kevin.
So I guess that would bring us to, and we lost Mr. Bruno, but we'd have the three of us if you wanna continue with it.
okay, Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Do you have
Mr.
a motion and a second?
Yeah, we do.
Yep, Mr. Parati and Mr. Bruno seconded it.
But Mr. Bruno's not here now.
I'll second.
What did you guys do without me?
Mr.
I
I'll
don't
give
know,
it to
would it,
Mr.
would it
Parati.
matter?
Mr.
As long as
Facto,
we had
Yes.
a
Mr.
second?
Randall,
Yeah.
I'm trying to reach, to ask about your prevailing wage.
Okay, is there anything else?
Website. Oh, anything happening there? Or is that tonight for that?
I mean, it's not on agenda, but it's business that we're working on. Let me give that back to you before I forget. I have sent out to all of you what I got for quotes and the two that were recommended. I've also contacted one of our town attorneys as to what would need to take place next. So I asked the councilman to give me some feedback on what one, or none, if they're happy or not with it. I'm waiting on, I think I'm waiting on one left.
Councilman?
Yeah. Yeah.
I responded to you.
You did.
Okay.
And Mr. Facto responded, and Howard responded,
Okay.
so you can figure out the rest, but I'm waiting on one. And then we'll move forward with that, and that would, again, I even though some of these are under the dollar amounts that I would have to go to the board for resolution on, I still would bring it back as a resolution, and I wanna make sure that the full board is in, or the majority of the board was in with the direction we go with that, if that answers your question. But yeah, I've been working
Bring
on
it
it,
closer.
yes.
Can I bring up one thing? So, I'm sorry. Mr. Parati the other day tried calling this office and was unable to get through. I called this office today and I got a hold of Mike Snyder
Town garage.
at the town garage. So Kevin and I spoke, and he gave me permission to go out and start looking for a new phone service. I contacted Spectrum, Verizon, and West Telecom. Hopefully by next Tuesday's meeting, I'll have a little more insight. Because of the holiday, they said, well, it's gonna go into next week, but they'll take a look at it. One of the problems is that, like Spectrum, a lot of their network works off from the internet, and so you might have to switch internet and phone at the same time. But I'll get some prices and let you guys know, but Kevin's aware of the problem, everybody I think is aware of the problem.
we do have Spectrum for our internet.
Do we? Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So, and he had said it would make it a lot less expensive, but their phone system works through their internet also, so.
And it's been an ongoing issue on and off down here for a year and a half.
And we
It was
basically have to
switched-
fix our own
I think it was
phones, and we
switched,
can't do
what,
it.
5 years ago? I know it was during Rick's,
Mhm.
in tenure down here, that they switched that. The biggest problem we have is getting somebody here. They want to do everything on the phone, or they want you to go and try different electronic stuff that they're trying to explain to you on the phone. They don't have anybody that can come out here. I've never seen anything like it. And I won't say what the company is, but I'm just saying it's not user friendly. So yeah, when he mentioned that he would be willing to get that information, I got a million things going on right now, so that took a little bit up on my plate. So I appreciate
I'll keep you
doing
guys
that,
posted.
bringing that back. I know most of the employees down here are pretty much fed up with this phone system. If I don't wanna speak for them, but from what I
No,
understand.
we're very,
Yeah,
I mean, people-
it's not only her.
it's not only the employees, it's the people that call the
Yeah.
office that can't get
Yeah.
through, or, oh, we called and nobody's answering. Well, we don't, because it goes to the highway garage and then goes to their voicemail, and, I mean, it's very confusing to everybody.
Yeah.
We'll get it taken care of.
And just one other quick thing.
Yep.
Sherm, you would know, the hours of this, JC, when are they open here?
She comes in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and she's here until 12:30.
Well,
It's
Kevin can
changing,
speak, it's changing.
Oh,
Oh,
okay?
guess I know.
That, we'll be getting the same amount of hours. But they're having the same problem everybody else is with staffing.
yeah.
So they asked if it was, I think it's Tuesdays and Thursdays. And, do all the hours on those 2 days rather than coming in 3 times a week. So the services, hours wise, aren't going to change. I asked her to give me because our contract doesn't say that they'll be here on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You know what I'm saying? We're not open on Friday. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah.
So I asked her to give us on the new contract, because they're up at the end of this year. It's a year of the contract.
Yeah.
To actually write in the contract what days they will be here and for how many hours. That way, we know that we're getting what we pay for, and we're getting the help that we hired them to do for the constituents that may need it in the town. And right now, sometimes she said there would be days where they have to do training, and it might be on our hours, but they have to have that training. So, or somebody might call in sick or whatever. I said, okay, I understand that. But I still want something to say in writing that if this will help you, that we're not losing any hours, and according to the contract, and what days they should be here, rather than guessing.
Yeah.
I will say that they are getting busier and
And
busier.
busier, the word's getting out.
It's amazing how many people are coming here, especially for the nutrition program. Right now with all the heat programs and everything.
Yeah.
Been a great program, believe me.
Yeah, it's helped out quite a few families around here.
And just FYI, Sarah said that they were working on getting a sign with the hours that would be posted too, for the, which makes sense, right?
Sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I'll close with, I'm welcome to hear from any of the councilmen, any projects that they would like to move forward in this town. But, this is the year that we needed to put some funding in that budget, to capital improvement projects. As we went over the first year, since I've been here, we passed a local law to go over the 2% tax cap. Now, if you subtract what we put in for those capital improvement projects, you're gonna see that budget is under the 2% tax cap. So none of those monies are gonna cost the taxpayer any more. It's money that's already in our unallocated fund reserves. It's banked money. The other thing that you wanna be careful of, that the New York State Comptroller's Office doesn't tell you how much you can have in your unallocated fund reserves. But this town has gone through it in the past where you have to have a reason for having that kind of funds in an unallocated fund reserve. And without getting into the specifics of that whole debacle, we're getting up to the point now of funding that we need to start spending that money and putting it back in and earmarking it at the very least, earmarking it for projects that need to be completed or that we're holding or retaining that money for projects. So again, now that funding is in the budget, if this board continues next year, they can pick out more projects, as long as we stay within the same funding ranges, about $500,000 worth that we put in this year, we can continue with that and not even have to pass a local law to go over the 2% tax cap, because it's already budgeted in this budget and it will carry over to the next budget. If you guys wanna delete it and get rid of it, you'd have to start all over again to try to get some of that money in line items without going over the 2%. So this is a banner year for the constituents of this town to get some things done for them. We could bring it all and put it in the cap, bring down the general fund and you could bring it down to probably 15 cents. And you'll never change or have money to change anything in the town. The only thing you will do is lower that general tax for the constituents. We're already the second lowest tax town by a far in the county, and we're the fifth largest. We deal with the landfill up there with trucks and sometimes smells and other things. So I just look at it like this, it would be nice to take some of the money from the adverse effects of having that and use it as an advantage to bring some things to the people of this town. And that's why I put it in, because I've been asking for a while to bring some projects, including the ARPA money projects. We have to, by the end of this year, have that money allocated, not spent. We got another 2 years to spend it, but it has to be allocated, or we will give that money back to the government.
By the end of 22?
By the end of 23, next year. I apologize, my bad. But in this year's budget, this year's 2023 budget, we have to have it allocated. At first it was 1 year, they did give us 2 years. Okay. And that's all I got to say. Yeah.
Speaking exactly on what Kevin's saying, I think I mentioned this to Mike. Back when I used to be on the board, twice a year, at least twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, one of our work nights would be a field trip. Basically, the whole board got together, took a couple cars, and we went out and we checked sidewalks, we checked buildings that were in disrepair, just took it right around town. I mean, everything from lighting to if somebody has a project and say, well, I'd like to do this down on River Street, or I'd like to do this over on Salmon River Road. Everybody went over, yep, and sidewalks was a big thing. Everybody went over, and that way you looked at it and you'd seen exactly what they were talking about, and everybody either agreed or disagreed. And it was just a way of looking at your town, seeing what's there, seeing what needs to be fixed, and I thought it was great. Plus, we always had a six-pack or two, but back then.
Except the driver.
Back then, I wouldn't, of course, not the driver. No, but seriously, no, I thought it was a great program, and it gave the whole board a chance to look at the town, different parts of the town, do half the town one time, and then the next time do the other half of the town,
There's
or whatever.
3 hamlets, so you could break it into thirds.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You got Woods Mills, you got Town Scout.
It's just a
Falls up there.
suggestion on my part.
You got-
It worked
That
out
kind of
for us.
brings up another topic of the new zoning comprehensive plan. I haven't heard a lot about that group. Are they ready to send any kind of a plan over to the town board at
Yeah,
this point, or?
I have nothing from the chairman at this time that is in writing to send. What they have been working on is going through them. He did it right. I mean, he broke them into sections. And then as they complete that section, they go to the next section. So, on their process, I couldn't tell you 100% where they're at, because it was hands off. I want them to take care of that. That is a committee that we allowed by this board to give us recommendations back. They don't have power of the purse, and they don't have power to initiate any of their changes. It still will go back to this board to institute the changes, or if we want to hire a counseling firm to help with the writing of the new zoning, if this board decides to change any of their recommendations. But they're doing it methodically. It's a pretty well put together team, and there are some real, I guess I would say, residents that are really pouring into this. I didn't want it to be the town board telling the residents what to do. I think this whole board wanted the residents to tell us what's been bothered them and what they think needs to be addressed. So the majority of that board is not town affiliated employees. It's more residents on that board than it is from the town. So I'm hoping to get something back from them soon. I know that they are still making inroads. Howard Newton is the chairman of that. He does let me know with an email that they're having another, when he sends a email out saying, hey, we're gonna have another meeting on such a day, I get an email saying that that's happening. That's all I get. I don't know who attended or what they worked on. But he does keep me in the loop just to let me know that they are still meeting and they're still working on it. I'm hoping that they get it done, as expeditiously as possible.
Yeah.
But there's our comprehensive, I thought you were talking about the comprehensive townwide plan for a minute, but the zoning committee is got a big job ahead of them because we have a pretty comprehensive set of zoning laws in the town. They're like this thick. It's not like we're starting from scratch. So not everything will be changed, I don't think. They're looking at what should be changed.
Larry, I didn't wanna cut you off. You had something?
Speaking of the ARPA thing, I don't know if anybody saw the paper today. Malone had bought some property and they were working on, work toward their salt storage shed. And they'd already spent money, but apparently there's a clause in there where they could use the ARPA funds to reimburse themselves for money already spent on a public project. So if there was something that came up that you had to move on quickly, you could spend town money and reimburse yourself later, apparently. I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but, I mean,
Yeah.
I was surprised to see
Yeah.
that they were able to do it in the paper.
Yeah, and basically what happened, that the ARPA money was put out into a four-corner box when it first came out, and you could use it for internet services, high-speed internet. You could use it to upgrade your website. And the reason they allowed that was because during the pandemic, they wanted the constituents to be able to, our residents of whatever municipality, to be able to go to a website and find out the newest information. So you could use some of it for that type of expenditure, upgrading your website. We did come out and we did, after the pandemic hit, we have instituted a emergency plan. We paid about, I think, a little over $2,000 to get that put into place. So we have that now where we didn't have it before. The other two corners were either sewer or water. Okay. Although my good friend over here wants nothing to do with Rick's and F because he thinks that it's being spent on private land up there.
Can I
It is-
at
it
least
is
defend
now.
myself?
Yeah, no, I will.
Seeing that,
Well, we're still friends, but anyway.
okay, but
Like I say, what I
I
want,
can't
what
let
I
that
want you to
go and not
understand-
comment on it.
Yeah. What I want you to understand is that when we put municipal lines in, they're never, very rarely, I shouldn't say never is a bad word, they're very rarely on town-owned property, okay? They're always within a right-of-way of either state, county, or town-owned property. So if we put a water line up at Rickson Ave, that we're looking to do, or we complete the water line and fix what over on Macy Lane, the town owns none of that land. But they would have to have the right-of-way in place to allow the lines to be put there, and that we could use either your money, municipal money, or ARPA money to put that project in. So those are all things that will go on as the project progresses. It's like anything else, obtaining, right-of-ways are the biggest thing. Even if we move forward with the Morsel Water Project, we still have to work on people's land in order to put those lines in. So there will be updates to easements to make sure our easements are still up to date and that we're allowed to do that. So we're not working on private land when the right-of-ways are given to the town.
Okay, can I at least defend myself?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, Kevin. Here's a map of Rixon Avenue. Here is the original plan on Rixon Avenue to go down Rixon Avenue along our town highway and put a water line in. There's only 3 or 4 homes there to be serviced. Okay, and I think this is great, and I'm behind it, 100%. However, all of a sudden, the plans got changed. Okay, we already paid for this engineering. However, the plans got changed. This, Kevin, is why I'm so upset.
Yeah, maybe I can explain.
Okay, no, let me defend the statement you made, please. And you are my friend. Okay, but all of a sudden, here we are, is taking a water main and bringing it over to private property. And we're using ARPA funding, and I voted no on it, I'm opposed to it. And I'm gonna, every time we're spending money on Rixon Avenue on this project right here, I'm gonna vote no on it. Now, you probably have the votes, and it's up to you guys. I'm gonna defend myself on this. It's not right, and this project should be looked into. We're spending ARPA money improperly. And you opened the door for me, and thank you. Then you turned
Don't
around,
do that, right?
then you turned around and got another map and put my name on it.
We can't even.
So I am gonna defend this.
We're in the budget.
Hey, are them
So-
available for public viewing or?
No.
So.
No?
no,
Oh,
they're-
oh, you
they're-
mean the maps?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Would they
engineering
be,
that,
Kevin?
they're not the right maps yet. So I got the most up-to-date engineering map. This
You mean it's
here-
been changed again?
It's been engineered, as the engineering goes through. This was not engineered, okay? This was something that I gave to everybody to look at,
Kevin.
okay?
My point is this,
Well, you.
Okay, without
let me
running off
talk
on a
now,
tangent
because
with you.
You've made a couple false statements here.
No,
So
no,
first of all,
not at all.
These are not the engineering, okay? These were a couple of rough drafts of what we may be able to do up there by the engineer, okay? And originally, we were talking about looking at this going in here because we were gonna go down Tremblay and then come around the back side, which would have cost a heck of a lot more money. And not only that, we found out when they were doing the surveying that there was Verizon lines down through here that we would have had to work around, which could have cost us a lot of money if we would have hit. To stay away from all that, we decided to move it. This system can't be left as a deadhead. Oh, let me say, you can't ever say can't. You can leave it as a deadhead, okay?
But it
But
won't function.
it won't function, and it won't give fire flow, okay? You need a loop system so that water can be pulled from both sides. all right?
I would like, and it won't cost us
This is in a road that is between the
I know where it
Richardson
is.
Ave property and the Tremblay property. I'll say
I
its
know
name.
where it is.
And this would be turned over as a right of way to the town. So that would have to be done to even put in that water line the way it is on here. But these, again, were preliminary drawings. That was before any of the surveying was done. It was it was drawn out on a technical drawing map for us to look at so we could start with something. And that's the problem down here, is that things get shut down and turned around before we even get going and know what the project is. And
Okay.
this is not the project.
But we are all of a sudden concerned with providing water to some building lots which are unbuildable. They're undersized. No one could ever do anything with these lots on Rixon Avenue. And for this project to be expanded into private property is more expensive. It's taking more of our ARPA money. It's taking more engineering fees. And that's all I have to say. And Kevin, you know I'm right.
No, you're wrong, because you don't put it in a
Try to say
deadhead
it.
line.
Try to
You
say
don't
you're
put in
right.
a deadhead line. You never do that for a
That-
fire flow. There'll be
That's
two
a
hydrants on there. And you're wrong again, because we stopped the water line right here.
I know what you did.
We never went
Yeah.
back there. These were preliminary drawings. As we move forward, the project changes to suit the needs.
Okay,
So
this
those-
project,
And these are within,
okay,
these are within 100 feet, these property lines are gonna be within
I know where
100
it
feet
is.
of the
Yeah.
lateral. So was no need to put, 8-inch main down that far. Like I said, those weren't the engineering prints those were so that the board could look at them and get an understanding of where we were going with the project.
Okay, we belong to the New York Rural Water Association.
Yup.
Would you give me the go-ahead to contact a technician and review this with him?
Yeah.
It won't cost us a nickel.
Yeah,
You like
I
that,
have
don't
no, I have no problem with contacting them and having them come up.
I will have them review this map.
That
Okay.
is not the map.
I'll come bring them down to this office and
Why don't
review.
you take some time instead of doing it here and come down to my office during the week where I can show you all the paperwork and all the folders, and then you'd have a better understanding of what you're talking about before you come up here in the meeting
I
and we
don't
sit
think
here
I
and
should be
argue.
insulted. That's
It-
not right.
I'm just saying, I'm not insulting you. I'm saying, come down here and we can explain what's going on rather than argue about it.
I'm not arguing
Because
about
I
it.
can't show you because it's all in that room, but
This
I'll
town
take
board
you-
is
I'll-
responsible for spending ARPA money. We are responsible for
Yep.
that.
We sure are, and we actually got a consultant to make sure it's being spent on what it can be spent on, because I didn't wanna be responsible for that.
Well, the consultant is the
Can
same
public
engineer
view the
who's drawing
engineer's
this up.
map?
Huh?
Can the public view the new engineered map?
As, if they decide to move forward with the project, right now, all we did is do the engineering for it, and we're trying to get the permitting through the Clinton County Health Department, okay? It's been at the Clinton County Health Department for about 3 weeks now. I think that they're just about there. There's 2 issues left that we need to get to them, and they're on septics, where the septics are located on those plots of land, to make sure that we're not interfering with any of the septics that are on those lands. So I think that is the last step that Mr. Davies needs down there to give LaBerge and the town, okay, these are the approved set of plans that are acceptable to Clinton County Health Department. We don't get to dictate it. The engineer don't get to dictate it. The Clinton County Health Department gets to dictate whether or not the engineering is correct for that.
What I'm pretty much asking you is, can I look at that, what they've accomplished so far, their proposed engineer map?
If you wanna come down to my office, I'll show them to you. I'm not putting them out there yet because they're not,
Yeah,
until I get them stamped
yeah.
and I get the permit approval from Clinton County Health Department, then it's not good to throw things out there that may not, or could change again. But if you wanna come down, or anybody who wants to come down, I will, including Mr. Facto, if he wants to come down, I will bring him through, okay?
I think I'll get a hold of you
But people
Monday.
tend not to, and then they wanna know what's going on.
Close the Veterans Day
Hey,
Monday.
Kevin, one other kind of unrelated question
Get a
about
hold of
water.
you Tuesday then.
The folks on Rixon Avenue, there's like, what, 4 of them, 4 homes? 3 or 4, huh? And my question is this, what did you say, 4?
4 and 1
4, okay. Up on Sand Road, where we have our other water issue, the state of New York was providing water to those folks. And being on the water committee, I would like to see if I could get the people on Rixon until this project goes, if I can get weekly water delivery for them as well. Because they've tested, I have the testing report. And they shouldn't really be consuming it.
Nobody is up there. To my knowledge, I've spoken
No,
to
I mean
everybody
Rixon
up
Avenue,
there. I agree.
right, but do
They
you,
got 2 issues up there. They
right,
actually got 3, cause they got some PFOS, they got some PFOAs,
Yes,
and they
yes.
got Pseudomonas up there.
Right.
I'm very familiar with those people up there.
sure,
And they can't even wash with
Right.
that stuff, okay? Unless you put a reverse osmosis
Yeah.
system in, it takes up half the house and it's very expensive to maintain, which one of them did, okay? And they're
Yeah.
more than willing, were screaming at me maybe about 3 months ago, wondering what is taking so long to get this project going. After they spent all that money on that. There's 4 plus the business that are on there. But there are multiple properties, not only in the back, but alongside the road that could become reusable if we get water there. So, everything ties into, something at some point. So even though we're helping right now 4 people in a running business up there, we have the possibility of adding about 5 more homes to the rolls. It's just the right thing to do. They've been dealing with it for 30 years up there.
So getting back to my question, not to get off base on it, but maybe if we were to email the county health department, they would add those 4 people on Rixon Avenue, so they then would add the group, be in addition to their delivery on Sand Road, the folks who are getting water there weekly, that we could maybe try to help the people on Rixon until this project may go. Would that be okay if I write that email?
Do you not think I've already did that right now?
Oh, didn't know. You should have contacted
I've
me.
mentioned it several times at the
You've
board.
never said it to me. Never.
What you sit on the board members. I told you back when we started the Sand Road project that I asked them to add in the Rixon Ave on the PFOA and PFOS issues because I was
Well, I
aware that
actually
it
did
was
too.
where.
And I guess they don't wanna do it,
Well,
apparently.
they are still concerned with getting this one taken care of before they move forward with that. If you wanna write an email to any government official, town councilman or not, I do appreciate you asking or talking to me about it, so I'm at least aware of it.
And I'll send
That's
you a
nice.
copy of the email.
But
How's that
yeah,
sound?
if you wanna contact them and ask where they
I
were.
will.
Because the last time I had heard, when I was talking to DEC near health department and Brian Davis at the health department, is they were gonna canvass that area. And put the door knock signs up so
Sure.
that they could go up and test their water. And I'm not sure where they are in that process. I know that the Sand Road has progressed in the last 3 months more than it did in the last 2 years. Okay, and there's a lot going on with that. And, that's, again, until I get an MOU in my hand from the county and a couple of the groups involved, then, again, I'm not gonna say on the record what we're gonna have, cause I am, I got it in my hands and writing and signing. I don't do that.
What
I
is
can't promise
MOU?
what I can't.
What is MOU?
Memorandum of understanding. I've been working with the county and 3 other individuals, including another town, for approximately 2.5, 3 months now.
I just got one more question I'd like to ask Mr. Backo.
Mhm.
Would you contact that Rural Water Association? Would you ask them if, because of the distance of that road, how long Rixon Avenue is, and the number of homes up there, is it really necessary to loop it?
That's the exact point I was trying to make. And I will ask them and I'll report back to the board and answer that.
Can I make a comment on that? Kevin and I actually went up there. Bonnie Barcombe owns, would we figure 6, 7 lots?
Yeah.
There's 6 or 7 building lots up there that, of course, she's not gonna be able to sell them until, but
They
if
get
they had water, you could get another 6 or 7 homes up there
Yeah.
if they had water. There's
Sure,
a building lot
with
that's
all
there.
respect to you for doing that, they are undersized and you could never, there's not enough room there. They're undersized lots. You could never put a septic system on the lots. They're not big enough, sure. They're really not.
Based on our building lot size, they are.
But saying he's right, could you ask them,
Sure, I mean, if you're,
say if it
I stand
increased to 10
corrected, but I,
homes, would you still have enough water? If it increased to 10 homes up there?
Yeah, the only ones I know that are undersized for the lots were the ones behind the gated area back there. That's pretty much.
Cause you only need, 110 feet of road frontage.
Right, you need 40 feet on the backyard and 25 foot on the side.
So there's a possibility, I mean, even if she sold them as a double
And
lot.
and those homes did have previous homes on it.
I'll research the size and drop you an email.
Isn't it
Hey.
110?
150. There's some lots across from me that were 100. They're
Oh, you know
older.
what? I stand corrected. You
Yeah,
are
150
absolutely
They were
right.
older
Yeah.
than
Road
100
frontage.
Yeah.
footers, and then the board passed the thing increasing it to
Yeah.
150.
Yes.
Yep,
Yeah.
Larry, you're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
road frontage, yeah.
Yeah.
But as long as I
But
finally
one
got
fifty,
the,
so there's probably
four.
4 lots, another 4 homes at least. Based on
Yeah, and you still gotta look at fire flow. If you're gonna put in a line and spend that kind of money, you don't wanna put in a line that does not give fire protection. It
Yeah, and that's a good point, Kevin,
Is
and
there
I'll
another
bring that,
option of the
I'll bring that up.
Trombley Road, of any houses being built there?
sure, there's a lot of land back there. There's all kinds of land in the back of there.
and that leads to my question. Now, originally, when we were talking about this project for months, it had been said the private owner where the private road is was gonna be paying for the work over there. Is that still holding true?
I don't have anything in writing. The talks that we have had so far would be that he would, and I hate to even do this because I don't have anything in writing. He would provide the labor and we would pay for the parts. So
Doesn't sound like a bad deal.
it's not. It's actually, the labor's probably gonna be more than what the cost of the material is, cause they're short runs. But you still gotta dig them up, and then you still gotta hook in all the laterals. You still gotta put in the street shut-offs, there's a ton of work there. So, again, those kind of private-public partnerships happen all over the United States. And if he's willing to give the right of way and give that portion of land up for a right of way to do that and do the work, that's a win-win for the taxpayer up there that's gonna have to deal with it. And it's not Mr. Facto, or it's not Mr. Dona, it's not even you. It's the people in the Marshall Water District that are gonna end up footing whatever the extra amount of bill is if it, were to go forward with higher money. Unless we keep it all in ARPA like we're trying to do.
But when those building lots become more valuable, that would benefit the whole town.
It would benefit the whole town, and it would also benefit the Marshall Water District because then the cost of the water district is split by more people. And that is what the name of the game is. The name of the game is to interest people to build in your town, to give them the opportunity and to spur the interest to have things in your town that will allow people to want to build here. That, we can have different conversations of it, but if the town doesn't move forward with its amenities, especially this water supply and things of that nature, and keep it up to code, who's gonna wanna spend $300,000-400,000 to build a house here, or even, if you're putting up a mobile home, they're $100,000 now. They're 105, 110, 15 grand now, okay? And nobody's going to wanna do that unless the town is making the investment into the needs of the people. And that is inclusive of your community events. Not everybody, I'm not gonna go out there, Mr. Dona, and go underneath that splash pad. Not with water coming in at 58, 62 degrees during the summer,
Yeah,
but kids will. I used to have to rip my kids out of the ocean when we go to Maine and New Hampshire because their lips are turning purple and they still wanted to be in the ocean. But, we're gonna need to invest in the town and have projects to show that we're investing in our town, to entice people to even stay here, much less build here. And that's what I've been trying to do for 3 years.
I just find it hard to believe that anybody would invest $300,000 into a home up there with the amount of ground pollution there is up there. You'd have vegetables growing out the ground glowing at night,
And I'm not gonna say that anywhere through that area that you're gonna see a $300,000 house. But I just got done telling you, even a mobile home where that area
Oh,
is
yeah.
10 to,
Yeah,
is still $115,000 to the base asset of the community and helps with everything. not everybody can afford a $300,000 house. But they may be able to afford, you know, a $70,000 to $100,000 mobile home.
But to
And-
me, I almost wonder why, with the amount of pollution that's in the ground up there, why FEMA doesn't buy out those places and shut that road right down.
Well, good luck with that, because that wouldn't be FEMA anyways, that would have been the federal government, because, and I won't even get into that on the record up there, but DEC was well aware of what was going on up there, and they do have, it is a Superfund, and they do have a station that they watch groundwater up there and have for
Yeah.
at least 20 years that I'm aware of.
Just one more thing, and then I won't bring it up again, I promise, okay? There's a service station there. And if this water main goes through by that service garage over there, how do you build a commercial building under town water? I mean, what rate would you have? What would his bill be, like a home?
It'd be like, it would have
Right
to be
now.
metered.
Yeah.
Right now, he
Right
would be a
now,
business,
he
so
would-
he'd be at least two units, so
But
that'd be
it's-
$130
Not
a
even-
quarter.
But not right now. I mean, that's if they go forward with the Morsel Water project and we switch to EDUs, they would be considered probably at least 2 EDUs. But right now, they would be
2 units,
paying an ad valorem
$130
rate
and $130 a
and
quarter.
$130.
You already have one on 22B.
Yeah.
Across from the beach. What's he pay?
$65 a quarter, because we haven't raised it for some reason, and that's been a thorn in.
If the water project goes through and we switch to EDUs, we even called other towns for schools, EDUs and all that. There's a lot of fluctuation there. We're way off the topic here, but there's a lot of fluctuation there.
Hey, you put me on the water
On what
committee, so
the,
here I am.
well, good, come down here and start helping me with
And
it.
I hope you reappoint
So,
me for next year.
rather than doing this. But like I said, the Allenberg, I think they switched that one, 3 years in a row before they finally got a equal balance where they were happy with it. And it's up to the town sets it for that water district. So that way that cost is, yeah, the guy's paying the school tax probably ain't gonna like it, but it's spread out amongst a much bigger group. And there is a theorem of how many EDUs a school should be charged, depending on the size of the school. Okay? So if you got your middle school, your grade school, your middle school, and your high school, the EDUs are gonna be a lot higher for that campus than it would be, say, for, say, Morrisonville School, which is only a grade school to not even middle school,
makes
you know what I mean? So, but they take up a pretty healthy chunk, and it's a lot more than what they are paying right now for water. And that was the first thing that I found out when we were looking at it, is that our water rates are really way too low, especially for businesses. And I shouldn't say that, because it's an attitude, and it's a opinion of the board of the municipality, because some people on boards for municipalities also go the other way to spur business in, which brings more money in. Okay, they'll actually lower businesses' EDUs. You know, the
Yeah, it's pretty hard to
schools
do.
are pretty much, you know, standard by
Yeah.
the size of the units, how many kids are using water there, how many employees are there using water. They're definitely using more water than the average consumer does in their home here.
But getting back to Rixon Avenue, you had mentioned to me about putting this main down Rixon Avenue one way or another. And when you were going by the vacant lots, you had initially told me 6 of them. I don't believe there's 6, but you said something to the effect of, just simply for those folks having a water line through their property, they were gonna be billed.
Yes.
Yes.
And what was that billing rate?
It's a half a EDU, whether it's a vacant lot or not. It's a half a EDU.
And that's why Kevin and I, as water clerk, as tax collector,
We got
should be
multiple.
ad valorem, not EDUs.
Yeah,
We have little difference of opinion on that, but I wish your board would discuss having it as a tax collector, as a water clerk. You should look into ad valorem, so like everybody else, is the only town in the county that has EDUs is Ellenburg, and they just switched it, and they've had
Because of-
problems for 3 years.
Because of, well, I don't know if
They're
they
just
have
starting to
problems.
get-
They're just getting it leveled out, and that's what happens. You're gonna keep on changing the amount of that EDU until you hit a happy
Not to
medium.
say either one of you aren't doing a good job. I wouldn't say that. However, most towns have got a board for their water districts and comprised of people who live in the water district who act as consultants for the water district.
Where in the county do
Yeah,
you?
that's what I'm
are you
trying to figure
talking
out.
I
about
know, I
this?
think of.
I've never
This
heard
town
of
board,
this.
has complete control of the water.
Certainly, I mean, and
100%.
But do you have a public board that you can say in any part of this
I don't-
county
I've never
that
heard
of it.
has a public water board? We're not Saratoga.
yeah, there's,
You know, they may have stuff like
What
that.
is EDU?
Individual housing unit,
Okay.
Like your school, this is
or
what,
individual unit.
the schools right now pay $3,000 a year for their water. They go up to 21,000 and over for the year, our school in Morrisonville. That's, you know, it's
By
a
the,
lot.
by the standard of EDUs. EDUs have an advantage, they have a disadvantage, okay? That is the way that the feds and the state all wanna see everything go, is by individual housing unit where everything is split up the same for everybody. Other than how many EDUs you're gonna be charged, okay? But that individual housing unit, that price doesn't change, you might pay more than one of them if you're not just a single home resident. That's the good thing, is that it gives you flexibility, no matter what the tax, rate changes on your house or your home. Ad valorem, it goes by your assessed value, which could go up or down, okay? So, in that case, I agree, I'm torn, we haven't decided what way we're gonna go yet. Okay, if we move forward with the project, I'll tell you this, if we don't get it going and done, the paperwork that I need to do right now done by probably January, you're gonna have to worry about it. Because CDBG and USDARD are gonna take back their funding and the bond, and that'll be the end of it. And we're locked in at 1.75, and you're all aware of what the interest rates are now. And that was the lowest interest rate they'd ever seen, that's a 30-year bond, we'll never get that back. I don't even know if we would be able to apply for CDBG or USDARD under the new income levels. Because we had to do an income survey to even apply for those, because they're low to moderate grants or a bond. So you had to be under 56,000 for a median income, we met that.
Where,
With the 2022 numbers, I don't know what'll happen with the census.
where are we at with that line budget, or that you talked about previously, that we were, did I get on the Schumer and some of the others approved? You said there was a,
No, you're talking about the congressional
Yeah.
funds. We're there, we're still on the short list, okay? Unfortunately, us as towns and municipalities all have to have our budget submitted to the counties at no later than November 20th. The feds have a little bit longer to get a budget, or they can just say, hey, we're not gonna pass a budget and go into pretty much a day by day, or 30 days, or whatever. So until we get the federal budget passed, I can't promise that we'll have that funding. But we're still there, we got picked up by 3 senators, and they're all still in office right now, they didn't lose elections. And it's going in as a bipartisan bill, it's backed by Republican and Democratic senator. So it's got a wicked good chance, it's, they come up with a number, it's their congressional funding, each one of them gets to pick about probably 7 projects throughout the United States, not just New York, the United States, and we got picked up to the tune of $2,600,000 and something.
So that would cut our loan back.
Right, we wouldn't have to take the whole loan. And that's part of the paperwork that I need to do right now, is we need to accept, we've got everything locked, but I need to accept the bond. Doesn't mean we have to spend it. It doesn't, any of it. We can just let the acceptance letter sit there until you take money out of it. It'll go back. Once you take money out of it, naturally, you're gonna be responsible for whatever you take out of it. But, there's certain paperwork that needs to be done right now, what they call prior to bid, so that we even know whether the project's still feasible under what we have approved monies for in engineering and in our budgets and in our bond, to make sure that it still can be done for that amount of price. But in order to put it out to bid, I got 5 pieces, I sent it to all of you. There's 5 pieces of paper with probably 11 or 12 or 13 different forms that have to be filled out on each one of them. I'm working at for the last week and a half again to get it done. If we don't get that in, you don't have to worry about it, because it's not, the bond and the grants are gonna go away.
So that has to be approved by the board to send in, is that?
Everything is approved already. The only one that we'll have to do a board resolution on is to accept the bond. We've already passed and accepted to get the bond. We've already been approved for the bond, for
So the board's not
USDA.
holding you up right now.
Only on that one piece, and that should be done. The other thing that's holding it up is the archaeological study, which I gave to Donna today. The A is about $2,800,
Yeah.
and then the B, phase 1B was I think it was 26 and 28. So roughly, a little over $5,000. If we had LaBerge do it all, they charge 20%, but they float the money, and then they're gonna charge us anyways. So I wanted to see what the difference was and what their play in it was, and whether they'd be needed for that 20%. Well, the 20% is because they're putting the money and paying for the archaeological survey, and then we pay them back. So that to me didn't make any sense at all. So I told them today that we will do it direct, and that I will take care of that, as long as I knew that I didn't have to supply engineering paperwork and things of that nature to them that they would have to supply. So I was gonna bring that up on our work session, on our meeting night, and I got some of that stuff together. And there's actually a resolution for those 2 archaeological studies. Those have to be done in order to even do the final engineering. Because if he put in the engineering saying the pipe is going right here, and we spend, $30,000 doing engineering on that, and then all of a sudden they find out that's an archaeological site that, the natives had at one time or whatever, it could stop the whole project. So it's also required by CDBG and USDARD.
I've already given my opinion, which is that there's
Yeah.
likely nothing there based on the old 1856 maps and where the housing was at that point.
Yeah.
In terms of natives too, it would be more around the riverfront, and that's the Soper
Right.
to down Flat Rock, right?
And-
So,
And thank you for doing that. That was,
But I don't
again,
count.
something that I asked her to do for LaBerge temporarily, so that we could get through some of the engineering to see if she's seen anything locally, our town historian seen anything that could interfere with it. The good news is, and that was the first thing that Ron LaBerge said, he goes, if they're willing to do this study for $2,800, he goes, they've already looked into it. They don't just do that because it's based upon the amount of hours they have to spend on it. He goes, they don't see anything that's gonna
Yeah.
obstruct it.
but you gotta have it.
But I can't say that until it's done. It's required by Arch, if I'm not mistaken, and
Who's doing this?
the historical,
No,
American historical,
not the
and something
Federal
preservation.
Architectural
Yeah, it
Heritage.
says,
no, it's
it-
some others.
it-
There's a lot of
yeah,
areas,
there's a
association,
bunch of them. But it's all required, and we need to do that before we can even put it out to bid to see whether it's permissible.
I'm gonna ask another question on the subject before I forget. Speaking of water, how much, where are we at with the property that just burned What's the next step there, how we get to deal with that?
I
Cause
don't
it's,
know how much I can say on record because we might have to further paperwork on that.
just to clean it up, I mean, we don't want that to sit in our
No.
building and sat there.
No,
you know?
and that will, it'll be what I went through with, River Street after that property burnt up there a little bit. Hopefully, a little bit quicker than that one. But yeah, we're already working on that same
It's
format.
a liability for us being,
It was
Could
yeah, I agree with you, Michael. It was a liability before. It's
Right.
worse actually now
Right.
because at least it was boarded up to the most
it's
part.
good nobody got hurt up there.
I agree. The demolition and stuff will be much cheaper now that it's not as much of it. But yeah, that's something that I'm hoping we can work with the landowner to clean up. But if not, then we'll do the same thing that we had to do with a couple other properties.
Speaking of one parallel to that situation, at number 460 Salmon River Road, there's a home that's been abandoned. I was in contact with Mr. LeCount, and he's supposed to be checking into it, reporting back to the board on that issue. So the neighbors over there, the home is not secured. You looked at it, didn't you, Mike? Doors are off it. The neighbors are complaining about wild animals going in and out of there.
Mhm.
And so anyway, it's been reported and we expect something to develop on it, I hope.
Yeah, there's multiple distress. If you want to keep going with that, I'll give you the list.
Okay, that's all.
Anything else, anybody?
We done a lot for the water, we don't have a lot to discuss on the 15th.
I know that. I'll cut that back a little bit. Alrighty, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight.
Is this adjournment now?
Yeah, what?
Oh, no, I didn't hear.
Unless you had something to say, that's what I said. Is there anything else? Alright. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep, let's have a motion from somebody. I'll make the motion to adjourn, seconded by
Yep.
Mr. Facto. My good friend. It's good. I'll do the same thing.
All in favor? Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a nice trip.
Oh, it's 7:00.
Try slow, huh?
There you go.